So we're set to go.
It's a tough gig for Carlton, backing up in this heat now against fresh legs.
No doubt about that. Brock McLean in the thick of it. See Armfield in there and Carazzo. Both of those players didn't play in the first game. Eddie Betts another. So they have strengthened the lineup to some degree. Still Mark Murphy and Bryce Gibbs, likes of those guys playing in this team, and Cade Simpson.
Tommy Walsh playing centre half forward. Left-hand side of screen. He'll be pitting himself against... I've lost him in traffic now. Here he goes. He's Walsh in here.
Johnson. Yeah, well, there's Jamison.
Jamison's got him.
He needs a big year for himself too, Michael Jamison. Unfortunately, injuries let him down the last 2 years. He's a very experienced player. Needs to stand up.
Walker got a little shove. They're red hot on that. Alex Johnson on the mark.
If they're to win this, Carlton, they need to, now that they've got that time under their belt from the first game, they need to settle. They need to put a score on the board before Sydney settle out there, because they'll finish off the second half a little bit better, Sydney.
Richards slapped it away, almost laconic from Murphy. Got it through to Walker. Carazzo shoveled it out, but straight away gave it up to Johnson, and the Swans can go forward. It's a fairly vacant forward line though, and Jamison's able to twist and turn, and
outturned him.
Got away from Tommy Walsh, but it's going to come back again. Parker getting busy into half forward, but again hits a brick wall. Chris Yarran takes the mark.
He can take on straight down the spine of the ground here.
Yeah, well, all the traffic, all the players are all out on that outer wing, and he's content to kick it back out there again, and it goes over the line and out of bounds.
Terrific spoil there from Ted Richards. He's turned into a very accomplished player, obviously All-Australian last year. Ted, he's an accomplished defender now.
Now we can come up with guys historically who couldn't get a game at a club who become fantastic players, but they are as rare as hen's teeth. This he's turned into a star of the comp after not being able to get a regular game at his first club.
Murphy just squeezing the kick out. Johnson was trying to clean it up, but unfortunately his handball missed the target. Delicate change of direction from Allard. McLean kept it going to Garlett. Needed one more handball, and Allard was there to get it back.
So that wouldn't happen in the first game at this time. They weren't slick enough. They weren't used to the tempo enough. That's a goal because they've been out in the paddock longer.
Boys, we just spoke about Teddy Richards, and one of the remarkable things about the Swans' defence is they actually leak forward 50s. They're ranked 10th, so below average. But when it does get in there, they defend so well. They're number one for defence, but they still leak 50s. It's amazing.
Well, we saw that in the grand final, didn't we, with Hawthorn having the ball in so many times, and yet the Swans were able to defend, and then with their slingshot play. I'm sorry to remind you of that, Dermot.
Helps them when the opposition don't kick it through the two biggest posts.
No, it does help. No doubt that's a massive factor. The Blues have got one through here, though.
Thank you, Anthony.
Eddie Betts, Carazzo, up the centre half forward again. It's Harry Cunningham in the number 7. Oh, look at that! Eddie Betts flashed through your screen. You can barely see him, and he put it through for a goal. Great stuff. And the Blues kicked the second, and that was a brilliant goal from Eddie Betts.
Oh, magnificent play, centre clearance. Eddie actually started in the middle. And there's Eddie Betts. He gets the ball, handballs it, and then has the awareness to run on Dermot. And here's the first initial touch. Oh. That's crumbing at its absolute purest form.
But you can't teach that.
That is one of the great goals of NAB Cup history.
He gets the clearance, handballs it.
You almost went with all time.
No, well, I mean, how often does a bloke get the clearance and then kick the goal?
We've got to have good wheels.
You take some players out in the ground and you want to teach them how to crumb and run forward. You can't teach that. That's purely instinctive. You teach them to run to it occasionally when the ball goes over their head, but that's just a God-given talent.
The Swans need to react to that, but Cade Simpson turns onto the left and takes Carlton forward again. Here's Sam Rowe, stood his ground. Grundy was there to make the spoil, but Rowe still looked likely. Gee, the Blues look like a different team, don't they?
The thing I like about Sam Rowe, Dermot, if he doesn't mark the ball comes down straight in front. You've got to get an aggressive spoil to get it out of his hands.
Rowe gives it to Simpson, a bit too far out to land a 9. High ball, it floated towards Hampson, who turned around at the perfect moment. It didn't look like he was really going to be in the contest, but he got there, took the mark, and we saw his straight, accurate kicking earlier, Derm.
We did too, and
well, it was a great grab.
Jesse White was doing then.
Well, he was perched for the defence, but I think the mark was far too good. I think Jesse thought he was just going to get the fist onto the ball, but I think he forgot that Hampson was going to run and jump at the ball as well.
So
Forgot your opponent was going to go for it.
Well, no, I think he lacked the height of Hampson, upset him somewhat.
and touch and go. It's just the wrong side.
The low side of the cup.
Yeah, it indeed. So Carlton 13, Sydney yet to score. One, you mentioned a number of Swans missing, including the likes of Adam Goods.
Stop. Free kick, Sydney. Trainer in the way.
Another of the Swans not there is
Trainer in the way there. That free kick called by the umpire.
Marty Matten, and we know he's not out there because he's sitting next to us and he's just joined us in commentary. Welcome, Marty. How you going?
Yeah, good, very good today.
Well, the Swans, your boys are a little bit slow out of the blocks here.
Yeah, it's taken them a while to get going. Haven't had much, sort of in the forward 50, so just like to get it down there. And
Lead up to this game, Marty, how much intra-club practice matches have you participated in as a team?
yeah, I mean, we probably started after Christmas break. We got back and we just started gradually building that up over 10, 20-minute quarters and stuff like that to, I think the last one we played was three 20-minute, thirds. And yeah, just gradually building it up from sort of non-competitive to competitive over the last month.
So this is the first time you've played opposition who don't know what the forwards are going to do, how the backmen are going to set up. So it's almost an experimental type game.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we try and run scenarios out on the ground with the players and that when we do in those games, but it's still hard to replicate the opposition.
Marty, your program, where are you at? Are you just having a spell today?
No, I just started training probably 2 weeks ago, fully with the team, so I'm probably a couple of weeks away from actually getting back out and playing a trial.
And while we're still on the injuries, Gary Rowan, obviously we talked about him pre-game. How's his progress?
Yeah, he's going all right. He started running sort of around Christmas time, and it's gradually been building up. But yeah, it's going to be a long season for Gary. And I mean, if he plays this year, it'd be great. But I think the outlook is just to get his leg right and get him running.
Still a doubt when you said he plays this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a long-term thing. I mean, it's hard to put a date on when he's going to come back. So he started running and he's running pretty well at the moment. But I mean, he's been running for probably 6 weeks now. So it's going to be a long time for him to come back.
Fraser Dale, number 39 for the Blues, has his first impact on the game, lobbing it inside 50, and it's just keep coming and coming into the 50 for Carlton. Jesse White felt the heat. Garlett putting the tackle on. Umpire very patient, but now blows his whistle.
Brandon Jack having his first taste of football. What can you tell us about Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, he's only been playing actually AFL for a few years, so he's come a long way, and I think the last probably couple of months he's been training with the boys has probably been the biggest learning curve of his career. So, but he's going really well. I mean, he's living with Kieran, and so he's learned a lot from Kieran. I mean, professionalism and how to prepare for training and playing. So he's got a great sort of role model there to learn from.
Levi Casbolt, that's a nice goal there too, Spud, and Blues now to a 20-point lead.
Oh, it's magnificent. Marty, you're talking about they haven't had many opportunities at the moment. Sydney, it's very hard for their forwards to get opportunities. If you have a look at we don't go on stats, but it's 8 inside 50s to 0 at the moment. The ball hasn't been over the halfway line at the minute, and it starts with the contested possessions. I think you guys pride yourself on that. I don't think John, even though it's early, when you've got a discrepancy of 19 contested possessions to 9, he wouldn't be overly happy.
No, I think at the moment the midfield are really struggling to get it out of the midfield and get it forward, which is probably where we're falling down at the moment.
I've seen, but they've only gone forward of the true centre wing 3 times, and each time it's been Tommy Walsh on the contest, and his opponent in Michael Jamison's been too smart. I'd swap him and Reid around, put Walsh closer to goal, and then see once again just a bit too much experience, being able to turn him around a bit. Get Reid out there.
Well, that's the first clearance Sydney won, that centre clearance there, so that's a start.
Well, if you actually get a 50-50 in that position, that's going deeper into the forward line. This could go all the way.
It is for 9. Tommy Bell with the kick, and it thunders through for another goal. And the Blues, they have come out flying, and they lead by an astonishing 29 points, 9 minutes into the first quarter.
Well, they won the clearance, Sydney, and I think the forwards then were probably half asleep because the game's been dominated by the Blues in the forward half, but they did get a clearance, but it came out far too easily there, and just an open forward line, the rebound, and what a magnificent hit that. That has gone all of 75 metres.
He's 5 inside the centre square there. Not 5.
Gee.
I'll give him that a haircut. He's 10 inside the centre square.
So the Blues lead by 29 points.
Why couldn't this happen last September?
And the Morningside Club up in Queensland will be delighted with the bag of Sharons, courtesy of NAB. The margin now 29 points, 1 super goal, 3-2-29.
Good job.
Baz, the clouds are looking a little bit dark down there. Is there any intermittent rain coming much?
As you can see in the background there, boys, and just to the left of the screen, it is very, very black. So hopefully it doesn't, but I think it's going to come down very, very soon.
There is no way it will rain. I reckon even God is scared of Barry Hall.
Stay out. Out you go. Take him out.
So footy
Move it on.
at centre half back with Ryan O'Keefe. Craig Bird takes the mark. How has the post-premiership euphoria been, and how hard is it, Marty, to just get your head back around a new season for the Swans?
I mean, it's tough, but as soon as you start training, you sort of get back into the whole routine of playing and training and stuff. So I think a lot of the boys are really keen to get back out and play and, you know, get into the games. And, you know, I mean, you can so much train for so long and play against opponents, but to get out and play against another team and actually have a crack is the big thing.
I want to ask you about the lad who just went for that competition as we look at that big dark grey cloud. Tommy Walsh, he crossed from St Kilda last year. I think he might have got 1 or 2 games last year. Even though it's a brand new club, second year, he has to make an impact this year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Tommy had a really good pre-season this year, so I mean, the club are looking forward to him to, you know, cement one of those forward roles. And we got Sam Reid and Adam Goods as well to come back. Well, Goodsy will come back in the next few weeks as well. So if Tommy can, you know, get his spot cemented, it means Adam can play more in the midfield, which gives us another option as well.
I saw him in the Irish series, Marty, and he just, I mean, obviously he's playing a game there he's more familiar with, but he looked like a superstar playing that. Is it just still learning the elements of the game? What is it that he still has to adjust to, do you think?
Yeah, I think he's sort of learning the element of the game, and forward's probably the hardest probably role to play and get the gist of when you're playing. So, but also, I mean, he's put on a lot of bulk this last year as well. He's a big boy, so and he's just got to, I mean, creating a contest as well up forward's the big thing as well.
So this Ramp that sent the ball forward for the Swans. Dane Ramp, number 43. Here's Carazzo sending it back from where it came. Richards.
Oh, well done, Teddy.
Yep, in the right spot.
I want to ask you, Marty, you get young guys who come into this team, and it's as if they've been drilled from 14 years of age about the culture of Sydney. What is it about a player when he steps into Sydney's inner sanctum and he lives and breathes the ethos?
Well, I think that's the biggest thing, is living and breathing it, and it's 24/7. It's not just when you're out on the track and just training. It's a full-time job, and it's a full-time, you know, commitment to join the club and become part of the culture.
That was thunder, I think, the sound of.
Baz is right.
The raincoat, boys. Come on.
That's Baz talking to God saying, don't you dare.
Amazing time in forward half stat. I don't think I've ever seen a discrepancy like that. 86 to 14%.
Yeah, 13 inside 50s to 1. It's not surprising the amount of ball that Carlton have won, not only the clearances but the contested ball as well.
Gee, Jamison looks a rejuvenated man, doesn't he? I mean, he had all that injury trouble, but a couple of years ago he was probably one of the best fullbacks in the game, and he started this game superbly.
It helps when your midfielder winning the ball as well, Hutto. And when the ball does come into Sydney, he's normally got help because Carlton's dominance.
Jesse White just made the spoil in the end. Armstrong had to wait a long time, decided to fist it away. Now it's up to the runners to try and go to work. Luke Parker came through. There's another thunder in the background again.
Hey, Hawley, we don't use umbrellas here either.
Is that soft, is it?
Oh, mate, yeah.
Just do what you got to do, Baz, down there, mate. That's the part of the theme song, isn't it, of the Swans anyway, so they should be right. Armstrong takes the mark.
They can shake down the thunder by themselves.
This is Harry Cunningham. He's got a promotion not just to the senior list, but also in number. He's number 7 now for the Swans. Nice sliding effort. This is Dean Towers, who we talked about.
Moves well.
From Colac and in North Ballarat in the VFL. Opportunity for the Swans to score a goal, perhaps.
Good pick up there from Tommy Walsh.
Hanbury, McVeigh had time to work out the angles. Not sure if the wind has changed much. We saw it being quite a factor down there in the first game, but they're on the scoreboard anyway.
Hanbury there, I must say, Marty, now when I've watched back the grand final replay from last year, he was stiff not to win the BOG. My God, he's a good player.
Yeah, he's been really good for us the last couple of years. Really fit, courageous. A couple of times he went back in the fly of the ball on the grand final day, and you know, he created a contest, and he's been really good for us at midfield as well. He's a young kid coming through, but he's been really good.
It's a rarity, isn't it, to have somebody who is so skillful yet so courageous.
Yeah, definitely, and so young too. Like normally, you guys have to play for a few years to get used to it, but from day one he came in and he was throwing his body around and into the contest and going back with the flight of the ball.
Very good footballing family, the Hannabury's got a lot of football in the bloodlines.
Walker almost all the way to full forward. And McLean basically handballing it through for a behind of his own team.
Rhino Keeps out there, and he obviously won the Norm Smith medal. Is he the type of guy, he just doesn't seem to have a spell at all. He just relishes the work rate and wants to be out there?
Yeah, one of the hardest training players I've ever seen. Always probably first on the track, last off. Works on his game, even if he's probably had 30 touches that week, he's still working on something. And always the hardest working bloke at our club.
The interesting spot.
Right, and the Blues counter again. Lucas goes out to Casbolt versus Richards. It just got out the back of Casbolt. His recovery was excellent though, as you can see, and works back onto the right boot. Finds Eddie Betts out. A quick look around before the ball got to him to see what was coming up. He sets it to the top of the square, and good agility again shown by
Lucas, he's been very impressive in this half. He's had the 6 disposals, Kane Lucas, using the ball extremely well. 4 handball receives. You can nearly put him into the midfield of Carlton now.
Yep, it's a goal, and Carlton are the real 5 point.
Here about a later the late start.
Well, hence you see out there that when I asked you the question before about that they've only had intra-club practice matches of 20 minutes here, and thirds of 20 minutes is probably your biggest hit out. You actually get taught all on the same paddock. You know what your backmen are trying to do. You know the structures your forwards are going to run out with in those practice matches. This is against real opposition. It's a little bit different in the heat of battle when you've got 4 or 5 new boys out there trying to learn the nuances of all their teammates as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the hardest thing to learn, is actually in the game, and it's hard to replicate the game in training. And I mean, the young guys, they might train well, but actually in the heat of the game and the heat of the battle, it's hard to replicate it.
You have to say too, when you look at the Carlton team, it's a reasonably experienced team they've got playing this game, with the players they added from the first game, whereas there's quite a long list of young Swans. So that must have an impact as well. There's another one of the young Swans in Jordan Lockyer.
I want to ask you too, we're all looking for the fantasy footballer step-ups, Marty. If you're filling out your team, who are you going for? Who are you going to slip in there, mate?
Dean Towers, I like him.
Yeah, he looks all right. He's had a really good pre-season again, and he's probably a bit of a more like an elder, like 22, I think he was when he drafted. So definitely one to look at. I mean, it's tough. It's tough this time of year. I reckon you still
Sorry,
go.
Marty, but that's when you've got to pick him.
I know, but guys that aren't playing today, I reckon like Josh Kennedy is probably the one you can't go past.
And all your teammates are listening too, by the way.
I know.
They'll replay.
We just learned a bit about Marty. He's gone out on a limb
Very honest.
and chosen Josh Kennedy.
Who everyone's got their team anyway.
Hey, Baz, I think the rain might have come, mate.
Don't you come in, Barry Hall.
Come on,
you stay
Baz,
out there.
Look at
You
Baz.
stay out there.
It is coming down.
Oh, we get a shot in a second of the great Barry Hall, the big tough man. Have a look at him.
The ball's nearly hit him on the
There
head
it is.
there. There he is.
Under
the
that umbrella there,
I
you'll
want a pay
find...
rise, boys.
You're
You
getting
did call
paid.
though, Baz.
That's what becomes the champions of our game, and what a star Barry Hall was, and still loved so much by the people who were down there on the boundary before the game. Plenty of autographs and photos with Barry Hall, contributed so much to the Swans' success. And his team, his old team, just battling a bit at the moment. It's going to be hard to come back in these conditions.
Well, this lead's been magnified now with the rain coming down.
Good work by Andreas Everett.
Oh, in danger.
Well, Marty, thanks for being with us. And when do we see you out there?
I'm sort of hoping probably the last NAB Cup game to get out and have a kick, and that'll get me sort of 1 or 2. I think the reserves are playing a trial game as well the week after, in between the seasons. So trying to get a couple of games in before round 1.
Beautiful.
And before we go, it's half-time now, but a player who comes from Adelaide ends up in Sydney. Would you ever go home? You're going to go home when it all washes up in a few years' time?
I don't know. It's one of the hardest questions. I mean, the longer I stay in Sydney, the more I enjoy it. But it's just...
Here we go, guys. Eyes on the footy.
Second half then, Swans and the Blues.
Still, mate.
And of course the Swans to take on GWS in the last game of the evening. The sun is back out.
Well, this will be a contest.
Well, you know, Hanbury won't take his eyes off the ball.
Hard not to forget that mark he took in the first quarter under unbelievable pressure in the grand final. Allard, McVeigh, it's going to be slippery after what happened into that first half, obviously. Simpson, Carazzo. What about the Carlton captaincy, Dean? Of the 5 guys in the leadership group?
Personally, I like Murphy the best. I think he's grown so much as a footballer, and he takes on the responsibility. He takes punishment and does everything that he would ask of the rest of his teammate, and that is a very solid grab for slightly wet weather footy. And
Good timing, wasn't it, there?
He is a super player, Heath Grundy too, and he moved him sideways.
So Sam Rowe.
The thing about him, Dermot, we know he's tall, but he plays tall as well. There's some players out there that are very tall, but he just stands very tall. And if the defender does get a fist on it, it's got to be a supreme effort to get it out of his hand.
I want to ask Barry about him in a second.
And hits the post.
Now, Hawley, you were out there with Sam Rowe after the first game, and you interviewed him and you played alongside him. And he's obviously grown in stature as well. Some blokes, and we sort of touched on it then, some blokes can be, say, there's a difference between a 6'6" ruckman and a big 6'6" ruckman. This bloke looks big. He plays big.
He is big. He's very strong too. As I said, competitively, he's one of the better players I've played with. He's really, really competitive. Not a natural forward, but when you've got a guy that's that big and that competitive, he's going to give you a contest. He'll bring the ball to ground at minimum, and that's what Carlton would want from him.
Armstrong flashing through, sending it. Unfortunately, Tommy Walsh couldn't complete the equation, and it goes to ground. Now it's holding the ball.
Well, it was a good lead from Tommy, and look, the conditions now are very slippery, but he just needed that for his confidence, that mark.
He tried to mark it too high on the chest. Another good mark.
That's Casbolt this time. So some real pluses for Carlton. And we talked about their forward line being one of the puzzles, or the pieces of the puzzle they really need to put forward and get together. And there have been some real positive signs from them. Rowe this time one-on-one with Grundy.
Gee, he works hard to get the front position, Rowe.
Murphy.
Not taken off the feet again.
Yeah, he was confident, wasn't he, in the tackle. Walker.
I was just watching the build-up to that with Grundy and Rowe, and it was great defensive play and forward play. But you just see the want and the desire to actually want to compete to get in front is a real positive sign.
Margin 37 here. Yaron to compete against the big men. They came in from all angles.
Has anyone in our competition so far, this is the completion of round 1, albeit not scored a goal yet in the game? I think everyone's got on the board, haven't they?
Yep.
I think so.
Best part of 17 minutes to do so here, the Swannies. But it's greasy and it's wet now, and not even Carlton, who've kicked 5 already, are on the board in this second half.
One of them being a super goal.
I know I've had a lot of people on the boundary ask me down here about the quiz. Due to popular demand, there's people asking about it. What's going on?
Well, it is coming back at the end of this game, the Super Quiz, and it's Durham versus Danny tonight.
Ooh.
See, I must say that with my IQ, I just watch the footy. I don't do the quiz.
Well, the quiz is about footy, Durham.
Well,
It's about footy. It's about old bits of footy vision, and
Ooh.
I'm sure you will be right on the job.
the
So I'm
haircuts come into it.
looking forward. They could. I'm not sure if they're in there tonight, but
If it gets close, we might have to get Barry up here at half time to separate us if it's going down on the wire.
Jeez,
Hutto.
I'd add a heap.
we might use Barry as the phone a friend. I'm not sure, but Armstrong down the bit of a lifeline as Grundy takes it away, and Kieran Jack takes the mark.
We could have one. What did Barry Hall have before he turned it into a black tattoo on the shoulder? What was it originally? Was it green in colour, Hawley?
No, you're wrong.
No. It was a little
Do you want to phone a friend?
cartoon character or something, wasn't it? Was it red?
It was red, mate.
Yeah, it was a little cartoon character, wasn't it? All right, we haven't started yet. We haven't started yet, all right?
Fraser Dale gets the Blues going. Down to half forward.
Oh, crumb. Bad luck.
Walker came through. There's Rowe again. Walker, Richards in the clinches. Good, strong stuff.
Well, the defenders of Sydney have had plenty of work. I think John Longmire will be saying to the back line, you've had plenty of work because the ball's been pumped in there 24 times to 7 in this game at the moment. Big discrepancy.
So Casbolt just for the 6, as you heard. And once again, the rain coming down. So Levi Casbolt, kick at 50 metres. It's wobbly from the start. And out of bounds on the full.
As evidence to that, the ball living down the Carlton end of the ground. The Sydney key forwards, Walsh and Reid. Reid's had 1 kick and Walsh has had 3 handballs, so they're just not getting opportunities either.
And when they have had them, they've been in Carlton's forward half.
Yeah.
Well, the other guy, boys, the other guy who needs a big game today is Jesse White. With Tippett coming and Sam Reid in good form, it's a big day for him. He's just not getting opportunities, unfortunately.
Armfield. Everett over the top. It's a great point, Baz, and it really is, because Tippett's going to come in mid-season and be fresh and eager and a proven player. I mean, not a champion, but he's got enormous ability.
And Mumford as well.
Are you surprised that he stayed at the club, given that if somebody could have offered him a real good chance at playing 22 straight up, that he could have gone? We watch Eddie Betts snap over the shoulder. He's hooked it too hard, one behind. Are you surprised he stayed, given those the lack of opportunity?
Well, I think it was on the table, but complications, and we know how some of these things work out. It just didn't happen in the end, but I think both parties were in greens to make it happen. But as I said,
there was a few difficulties, wasn't there, with the potential move to Adelaide. And he still had a year to go on his contract, so here he is, taking a mark.
Now you watch him after he kicks it. And he just walks off after that now.
Into McVeigh in the middle of the ground. This is Shane Biggs.
Biggsy. Ronald.
And Fraser Dale just keeps it in, angles it back. Richards' anticipation, one of his great strengths. McVeigh lays it off the bird. Let's see if the Swans can get some system. Tommy Walsh is deep, but he's got 2 to contend with. Sam Reid's also down inside the 50. Leading up to the ball this time is Jake Lloyd. McVeigh, and hits Bird on the chest.
Young Shane Biggs I've only matched him to the play once then when you caught him. He's already close to being my favourite player just because of his surname. Some blokes come along and do that. I'm thinking Jackson Crabb and people like that. They have such great names.
That was Jackson with an X too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Here's Reid. Good afternoon to the Crabb family. As he's put it through. Tommy Walsh.
Beautiful kick. That was Gaelic-like. That's one thing they're very good at.
Hard across the body.
Yeah, most of their kicks are across the body because of the oval ball. They kick it on the outside of the foot or the inside of the foot. And it was a really good contest here from Reid as well. We talked about Sam Reid. The conditions aren't suiting the taller Swans players. Craig Bird there just got the ball in. And we just see a really good contest here from Sam Reid. But look at the athleticism here of Tommy Walsh holding his feet. Oh, that's a terrific snap.
And we also noticed too there, Danny, that the Bird's set shot came from 49 and barely cleared the top of the goal square. It travelled 40 metres at most. So the rain's taking a little bit of the flight off the footy, and everything's going to be a bit more difficult to score from here in.
Oh, Keith got crunched there, sandwiched, and the ball squeezes out to Big Hampson. High one. And Fraser Dale with an impressive Luke Cunningham bursting away for the Swans, kicking it out to Walsh versus Jamieson. So he's had the battle against Jamieson pretty much the whole match.
See that there? See how he ran to that ball and picked it up? What he did was run a straight line. And when Tommy Walsh picked that up, and people say, oh, he's got no tricks, you know, they talk about people. As soon as he got it, he ran 3 more paces in that direct line. A trick would have been to feign one way and go the other, or feint inside and then run to the outside. That's called it, you know, that's your trick. He just gave his back as a target and said, put the crosshairs on it and mow me down.
Well, it was a good give that time off to Brandon Jack from Walsh, so that was a nice little nifty handball.
Good speed. If he had have looked inboard, McVeigh was loitering about 40 metres out in the central corridor, but he had a shot at goal. But I think he, you know, when he looks at his tape, I'm sure the coach will say, just have a look in to see if anyone's there for a start, then have a crack at the goal. Armstrong,
another who possesses great speed and shows some agility there as well. Works it in to the big fella Sam Naismith, number 35.
See that little step there? McVeigh's not quick for a midfielder, but he just put the tiny little shrug step on the start. That a little trick, so the opposition couldn't get a sighter on him to tackle.
Again, Murphy was good keeping his feet.
Double rainbow.
You like double rainbows, Doom?
Oh, just not the YouTube one.
Last year, of course, the pot of gold was there for the end of the rainbow for the Swans, wasn't it, Doom?
Yes, well, at this point in time, it looks like last year's grand finalists aren't going to win one at the moment. They haven't come out against GWS, but they're not showing all that much interest.
No,
the Swannies at the moment.
In the true tradition of Paul Roos and the Swans.
Grand finalists, yes.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
Alex Johnson takes the mark. He was a good find for them over the last couple of years. 50, I think, here.
And he had a great final too. Great final series, actually. Good wheels. He can play tall or small. Predominantly gets the small forward with Nick Smith. So he's a very good height. Another Xavier boy. Canterbury.
One thing he did do, boys, was allow Lewis Roberts-Thompson to go forward and give a bit of pressure and presence down there. So him going back and performing allows someone else to go somewhere else and make an impact.
But as we talked about Tommy Walsh before, but his direct opponent in Jamieson, Michael Jamieson, he would have played a little bit on Jamieson. He's a very, very strong defender too, isn't he, with good speed.
He's a strong defender, and what I didn't like about playing on him was he's a very, it sounds silly, very defensive defender. He didn't worry about getting the ball himself too much. He worried about you getting the ball and stopping you from getting the ball, which sometimes defenders like to guess, and that's what we love. But he's a very defensive defender.
Yeah, they are the worst to play, and I'm sitting next to one here at the moment, and it ain't you, Hutto.
Well, it comes down to the quiz, Dermot, after this game. That's what's going to come down to. I've got no doubt.
There could be some niggle.
I must pull out a name here. When he came to pick you up, you'd get some people that played, like Collingwood, to have a few good backmen in their day, and you'd get someone to come out to you. They'd give you a shot at it, And you might go pretty well, and then Mick Gafer would run over. And you just look at him and you'd say, are you going to play the sport, Mick, or are you just going to handcuff yourself to me? Good afternoon to Mick Gafer, too. There is a bloke who made the most of his career, what he was given.
Premiership player for the Pies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jed Lamb from Gippsland under-18s, originally recruited from Yarram in Victoria, into the pocket. And nicely trapped by McVeigh.
Clever.
He's got the angles just about worked out, but hits the post.
Stay there. Play on. Still me.
And
Still
Robinson,
me.
a bit of a grabber. Carazzo.
Yours.
And now they're away through Kane Lucas.
Provides a lot of run, Lucas.
He was a high draft pick,
Yep.
and I think the feeling around the club is he's had a terrific pre-season and looks a refreshed man. And we've seen a bit from him today. So Carlton leading by 23 points, 6 minutes to go. It'll be interesting to see how the Swans follow up from this against GWS. If you missed the earlier match, the Giants were terrific against Carlton, and the Blues suddenly found some form only very, very late and got up to win.
I think GWS would be keen to atone for that defeat in the first game, because they would have thought, you know, when they summarised the coaching staff and the players would have known as well, they probably had the game in the keeping other than the last 10 minutes, a couple of fundamental errors that allowed the experience of Carlton to get over the line.
And when you say fundamentals, little things like when Satanta didn't run back an extra 2 steps off the man on the mark, kicks it into him, rebounds down the other end, good hands in these conditions.
Hannaby plays on, wishes he didn't now. Betts feeding it into McLean. Just a little fumble meant that he had to dispose of it by hand in the end.
Need some class here.
And he's able
delivers.
to ride it back, Bryce Gibbs, and put through a goal, which will finish off the Swans. And the lead 29 points now to Carlton.
Well, McLean, we talked about it pre-game, Dan, the resurgence of Brock McLean. He turned his career around in the second half of the season, averaging 26 disposals. And we know he loves riding gunshot as well. You know, he's a big man, he's got a strong body, and trying to help the likes of Murphy and Judd off the ball. But we know he can win the ball. He's a very clever player. He brings other players into the game.
He's one of those blokes, he's like an opening batsman in the centre square. He takes the short delivery on the body, and he's willing to do it so the blokes at the other end can play shots. He's a good team man. Brock.
So the margin 29. Jesse White in the ruck.
And once again, gets the whack over the shoulder while he delivers a handball.
Jack
Chases it up.
thumps it in, and Reed.
That's what we're used to.
Yeah,
A
with a
clean
nice-
run at the footy.
I was just going to say, that had the run, didn't he?
Yeah, he's one of those blokes you just have to keep, even the outside of your hand, just motioning him away from the drop of the footy.
And look, probably, yeah, I think he had a niggle or injury or two.
No mouthguard. Playing league footy with no mouthguard. It's been a while since
Goes-
I've seen that.
That's a good hit.
Kicks it with authority, and that hasn't always been the case with him in front of goal. But I mean, and that is where we talk about improvement in the Swans. And that, he didn't have a great season. He played a role, whereas he's showing all the potential that he could be a really star forward.
Well, his run up there, if he can replicate that, regardless of the result, the process of him marking the ball, we know he's a very good mark, but I was more impressed here with the finish and the way he went back and drove through the ball. There was purpose in that.
Yeah, left shoulder pushed forward at the target. Hawley, have you seen, there's many blokes run out these days without a mouthguard, and I'm not suggesting you should, but
I didn't play with a mouthguard. Only soft blokes do that.
now we're suggesting, kids, you play with a mouthguard. I coach some under 13, 14s. They're not getting out there, Hawley, without a mouthguard. You didn't have teeth, though, did you?
I've got teeth, mate. Don't worry about that.
O'Keefe kicks to full forward. Yarran at the back. Sends it out to the wing.
A bit like monkey's teeth, are they? You put them in later.
And McLean, be nice to him. Barry's just warming into our team.
Just waiting to laugh at him when the quiz starts.
Oh, yeah. Go down in a screaming heap. Good afternoon to Damien Monkhurst. He didn't have a great set of teeth, Damien
He was up
Monkhurst.
there last night on the Gold Coast as the Hawthorn
Rucks
ruck
coach?
coach. Yep.
Yeah.
He can eat an apple through a tennis racket, Damien Monkhurst.
Careful, mate. There's one bloke who might be able to do you, Holly. He might sit on you.
Back here, 1, 2 metres.
It's a big, big man.
All right.
Somehow I think my phone might just buzz in a second.
Back to the footy as Eddie Betts kicks it up to the wing. They come from all angles.
Ooh.
Hampson's just flown at everything today. He might have just hurt himself on landing there too.
I think Mick Mulder has to be wrapped in that desire. You talked about he's launched himself at every high ball, and I think you need to do that. You need to assert yourself as a tall player.
Well, there's another who was a reasonably high draft pick, I think just in the top 20, and it's taken a while. He's now 24 years of age, has had a good 4 or 5 years of playing the game.
Oh, well crumbed.
We're going to see a goal here, and no, we're not.
Well, most ruckmen really play their best football, and Greg Deere is a good, premiership player. They play their best football from 25 to 31.
Yep.
They're hardened to the contest, their experiences.
You can do a lot of needless running as a young ruckman. Once you hit that 120 game mark as a 25, 26-year-old, you tend to be able to run more efficiently to where the ball's going.
We have a look at a lot of the premiership teams the last few years. They've recruited ruckmen ready to go. Brad Ottens from Richmond, Mumford from Sydney, Darren Jolly to Collingwood the year before.
To Richmond.
Yep.
There is a belief in some recruiting officers, you don't breed your own ruckman.
I think that seems to be the pattern now. I mean,
you let somebody else do it, and if some bloke falls behind and he's second cab off the rank, but he does have talent, you cherry pick him when he's 24, 25 years of age.
Well, you hear the recruiters and coaches, you've got to be patient with ruckman. It's a fact. It's 4 or 5 years for the taller guys to really grow into their bodies and get the big, strong frame.
well, GWS could have picked up Billy Longer a couple of years ago, and they decided not to. They just picked a whole bunch of midfielders mainly, and a couple of forwards and defenders. Brisbane took him with a high pick, and he looks like he's going to be a very good player. But as you said, Derm, they're quite willing now just to wait, because you just got to put so many years into them.
Well, if you get the structure right, I think a lot of clubs are prepared to give up the one time a high draft pick to get a ruckman that's going to complement those, I suppose, band of elite midfielders that are going to be underneath the ruckman's hands.
So the Swans, Everett's got to combat 2 here. Simpson, Jamison, and the danger passes.
What a good game, Jamison.
No, he has. One thing I like about him, Dermot, he just bodies his players out beautifully. Sometimes the forward doesn't even get a purchase at the ball because his body works so good to allow one of his teammates to come in and affect the spoil or a mark.
You got to know your opponents, and some of the times that Jamison got done last year was, I mean, not that Franklin can't do most blokes, but somebody who runs him up, gets in motion, and then can turn him around. I mean, no backman likes to be turned around and run a lot, but that really found him out against blokes with the agility who could take a mark as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt he was affected physically in the last couple of years with his injury, so
no doubt.
He seems to be back to his best, which is good news, and there's plenty of it for Carlton, because they've just had a 22-point win over the reigning premiers, the Sydney Swans. They kicked the super goal, 5-7-46 to Sydney 3-6-24. We got plenty of weather in the middle of it all, but the Swans much more competitive in the second half.
Yeah, well, where Carlton's come out of the blocks. That's the most impressive thing about Carlton. Very rusty in the first game against GWS, but against the trend, Carlton playing back-to-back games, the first 2 games, and able to run out probably. And you can see the way the game was played. You can see where Sydney's preparation's at. They'll be looking at round 1. They've started a month later than Carlton. Carlton didn't participate in the final, so they start a month earlier. And you can see there's a bit of a rush there in the Sydney Swans armoury.
There's no doubt about that. We watch all these going to make his way out there. I think he's looking up, heading up Brocky McLean out there, who had a pretty good game out there and just